We're here with actually a very smart lawyer, Gene Hamilton, Vice President, General Counsel of America First Legal. Full disclosure, my wife works with these wonderful folks. Steve Miller is the head muckety muck there, but Gene Hamilton is the glue that makes that place stick together. Gene, how are you, sir?
Mark, I am doing so tremendously tonight. It's been what a week, and what a pleasure to be on with you tonight.
You're not kidding. God, if it had gone the other way, what a week too, but in the wrong direction. You know, Gene, you and your folks have uncovered something that was quite devious, quite illegal, contemptible, and really, they wanted to pull one over the American people, and they wanted to do it fast. And you went in the court, and you said, wait a minute, and we're talking here about amnesty for illegal immigrants. I'd like you to walk through this case and the result of this case as a result of what your organization did.
Oh, I would love to do that. So let's take a step back for the listeners and explore kind of what the administration announced. So this past summer, they announced the creation of a program called Parole in Place. And of course, it sounds nice. They create this program for illegal aliens who are married to United States citizens. And instead of requiring them to leave the country, again, taking a step further back, the Immigration and Nationality Act prohibits aliens who come here illegally from adjusting their status, or otherwise known as obtaining a green card, inside the United States. Congress, this is common sense stuff. For decades, everyone recognized you do not want to create incentives for people to come here illegally and then hope that they can just stay long enough that somehow, some way, they will get amnestied in one fashion or another. And so this devious plan that they came up with was this plan called Parole in Place, which is to say, hey, there's this little provision, this little mouse hole in the INA that says that the Secretary of Homeland Security can temporarily, on a case-by-case basis, parole into the United States any alien for urgent humanitarian reasons or significant public benefit. That's the basic text that you're dealing with in this provision of the INA. And what they said is, hey, this provision allows us to amnesty spouses of U.S. citizens in the United States who came here illegally, and it allows us to do that because basically we say so. In fact, in the Federal Register notice creating this program, DHS used the phrase, we have unfettered discretion to grant parole to anybody. And so they twisted this really kind of narrow provision of law. And so for context for the listeners, you know, this provision of law is used for, say, for example, you have the spouse or the girlfriend of a cartel leader who's decided that she is going to snitch. She's going to come over. She's going to be an informant. And you got to get her in the country really quickly. And so you parole her into the United States. There's no time to get a visa. Or say there's a person who's having a medical emergency at the border, and you need to get the person in there. Obviously, that would be, on a case-by-case basis for a temporary time frame for an urgent humanitarian reason or a significant public benefit. So they said that this language allowed them to basically grant amnesty to everybody in the United States who is illegal, starting with this population. And of course, so what the numbers they put out, they say 500,000, 800,000, some people say 1 million of illegal aliens who would be amnestied and put on a pathway to a green card and citizenship. The danger here with this program was not just in that first batch, because the real danger here is that when they say they have unfettered discretion, they picked the criteria for this particular population out of thin air, completely out of thin air. And so what would have happened if they had succeeded with this program was that this is their trial run. This was their pilot program. And if they were successful with this, I guarantee you their ultimate objective was to use this little narrow provision of law to grant a widespread administrative amnesty to every single illegal alien in the United States. So,
unbelievable.
We, partnering with the great Ken Paxton and a coalition of other states, filed a challenge in the Eastern District of Texas. And yesterday, after a lot of briefing, a lot of consolidated consideration of the issues on a very much expedited basis, the district court agreed with us. The district court agreed with the position advanced by America First Legal, the state of Texas, and this coalition of other states that said, no, DHS does not have the authority to do this. And specifically, DHS does not have the authority to, quote unquote, parole in place some illegal alien in the United States. Because when you go back to the statute, which good lawyers always do, you always go back to the statutory language and you say, the phrase says parole into the United States. That means that the alien has to be outside of the United States. You can't parole someone into the United States who's already here. And so this was a crushing defeat. It's a crushing defeat to a much larger conspiratorial plan that they had in place to grant amnesty to millions upon millions of illegal aliens who came here, especially during the last few years.
Very well explained. Bottom line is they didn't have the legal authority to grant amnesty to any of these people. They were going to twist the law and the time frame to do exactly that. And all of a sudden, 500,000, 1 million people who are here get amnesty on the pathway to citizenship. And if they got away with it, as you're pointing out, there'd be millions more. I mean, isn't this really the utter immorality and undemocratic nature of this administration, where they're always trying to twist things so they violate the law but pretend they're supporting the law. They violate the immigration laws and pretend they're securing the border. Isn't this really their plan, all this massive amnesty so they can get people in here, get them to vote, chain migration, and the next thing you know, the country's gone?
Absolutely, Mark. Absolutely. That was, you hit the nail on the head. Why else? Why else would you knowingly flood the United States with over 10 million illegal aliens in just 3.5 years?
We're here with Gene Hamilton. He's Vice President and General Counsel of America First Legal. And by the way, if you want to find out what they're doing, and they're doing a lot, you go to aflegal.org, aflegal.org. Now, as a consequence of this ruling by this federal court in Texas, Gene Hamilton, has this put an end to the Biden administration's effort to do massive amnesty before they leave office by twisting existing law and going through the back door?
I would say the answer to that question is absolutely yes. I would never put it past them to try to do something else, to try to twist some other provision of law and do something that is going to try to shield millions of additional people from enforcement of our laws. In one of the ways, I can think of about 3 different provisions of law that they might try to twist to try to do this. But this was number one. This was the number one thing that they were going to try to do. And, again, you think of how diabolical this is. You intentionally open the border. You flood the zone. You overload the country with so many people from across the globe. And then to think that you're going to be able to, on the backside, whether it's 6 months, whether it's a year, whether they got a second term, to be able to then grant amnesty to all of these people and allow them to stay here forever in perpetuity, to turn them into voters, to get folks on the ballots, all kinds of things. It should be alarming to every American citizen, and so we are immensely proud of the team's efforts at America First Legal, the great lawyers that we worked with the Texas Attorney General's office, the Idaho Attorney General's office, a coalition of, again, willing and courageous lawyers from across the country who are willing to stand up and say, no, Biden-Harris administration, no, not today.
And can't we assume they're doing this, or not exactly this, but things like this throughout the government? I hear over at the EPA they're trying to ram through as many regulations as possible. In other words, these people aren't interested in elections and mandates and what the voters think or anything else. They're trying to impose their will on us all across the ubiquity of the government, aren't they?
Of course, absolutely. Not only they're trying to impose their will on the people, they're using the elite technocratic class, the expert class, who think that they know better than the average American. They think that they know better than the people who are out there working and paying the taxes to fund these jobs. They think that they know what is best for this country, whether they voted for it or they didn't. They don't care. Their job, they think, is to impose their will, their ideological agenda on the American people every day. And if you don't like it, of course, one of the other things that we've seen and witnessed and exposed, at least here at America First Legal, and that we're fighting, is that they try to censor dissent. And so over the next few months, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what this administration tries to sneak across, what illegal programs they try to get across before the clock runs out, and what they're willing to do in the sunshine and what they're willing to do behind closed doors. It's really going to be a fascinating few months for the American people.
Now, how did you find out that they were pulling this stunt with trying to get hundreds of thousands, if not a million, illegal aliens amnesty?
Yeah, so they announced some of these programs, and they announced when they create these immigration programs, they always announce them with kind of benign names or humanitarian sounding names to hide the ball of what's really at issue. And with this one, they announced this kind of rollout of this program. But when you look at the mechanics and you look at the law, and again, to all the people on listening tonight, whether you're a lawyer or you're not, the lawyer's first obligation in advising any client, in looking at assessing at any situation, is to look at the laws that Congress passed. You read the words. The words mean something. And so you have to go back and look at those words, and you have to say, is this a program that is authorized by Congress? And if it's not, then gosh darn it, the government doesn't have any ability to act. They have no power under this constitutional system that we have. And so we identified the big kind of threat that was here. I've spent a lot of my career in the immigration field. I know what they're up to. And so we partnered with some, again, these great states, and it's now been stopped. The federal judge declared you have no authority to do this. They can't get around declaratory judgment from a federal judge.
If people want to learn more about your group, what you're doing, they want to support you and help you, where do they go?
Well, absolutely. aflegal.org is our website. You can also follow us on X, which is our handle is America1ST Legal. So it looks like America First Legal. We're all over X. We love it. We love working on all of these critical issues and trying to advance the American people's interests every day.
All right, and you're doing a great job by everything I see and hear. That's Glenn Hamilton, Vice President, General Counsel of America First Legal. Gene Hamilton. Why is Glenn in my head? Why am I thinking of Glenn Beck right now, Gene? Can you tell me that? I don't know why. Gene Hamilton.
I probably.
Thank you, brother.
You,
God bless you.
It.
You too. Keep up the great work. He's really good. Now, my wife's impressed by him. She's not impressed by a lot of people. I don't even know if she's impressed by me. No, I'm just kidding. But she brags on Gene Hamilton, how sharp he is and how earnest he is and how hardworking he is. All the people over there at aflegal.org. We have our own great group, Landmark Legal Foundation. There are others out there too, but I give credit where credit is due. Credit where credit is due.